We're going to begin. I'm glad to see you all. I'm excited to teach the class because we've been working in our yoga therapy training on some things that I'm going to bring into this class. So those of you who are coming to class who are not in our training community, welcome to the methodology that they're learning right now. Hopefully you brought your hips to class. So for those just signing in, you may need or want a theraband or a yoga strap today, and also a chair we will use for sure, and a physioball if you have one. A large Swiss ball, like I'm sitting on one now, right? Like one of those things. I call that a physioball. Okay, you can rest your hands in your lap and please close your eyes. Start coming into your inner sense of yourself. Even if it feels like cluttered or you got distracted by news or you had some infusions of information, let's come inside and see where you can sift through the seaweed of the ocean to find the treasure of yourself in there. If you notice that your mental noise is particularly voluminous, if more than one radio station is playing in the mind, try directing your attention through all the seaweed of the mind into the treasure of yourself, your innate self. Now lengthen your breathing and try to sense, even though your eyes are likely closed because you're tuning in, try to sense that you're here for a community practice. We're here together. And so with your inhale, lengthen up through your spine and try to have a sense like this sort of blossoming awareness, attention that you're practicing in community. The word for that can be Sangha. When you exhale, deepen your commitment to understanding yourself on behalf of then understanding other people better. So in the exhale breath, you can imagine sort of squeezing out or expelling that which gets in the way of you understanding yourself or tuning into yourself. And then please bring your hands to your heart. Come to Anjali Mudra. And we can sing together. Om Asatoma Sargamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Asatoma Sargamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Asatoma Sargamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om. With your exhale, you may bow your head to your heart. And then release your hands and open your eyes. And I'm going to join you on the floor. I'm going to move back to my other camera. Just one moment. Okay, so you may have 2 blocks, a strap, a theraband, a chair, and a physioball for class today. And I'm going to ask you to start with an exploration of something in the physical body. So if you'll start with your legs out in front of you like this, just the sort of raw version of Dandasana. Excuse me as I move these things. So in Dandasana, your hips and legs are in flexion. When you're sitting up like this and you have the feet out at about hip distance, just take notice if you rotate your legs out deliberately, how far do they fonzie? That's what I call that, the fonzie. And then roll your feet back up. Walk your hands back. So you're maybe 45 degrees or so leaned back. And again, you can fonzie the legs out and notice if they go equal amounts as last time or less far, or one goes farther than the other. Roll that back up. And then come down to your elbows like you're at the beach and you're watching the waves. So you're in more your spine has gone further back to the floor. You're actually in less pelvic flexion. And try it again. If you tip the legs out, how far did they go, and did they go equally out? And then take the lumbar spine to the floor. Please hold the back of your head so you're looking forward. And tip the toes out. Notice how far they go. The lumbar spine is down. And then feet back up to parallel, up to your elbows. Tip out. Take notice. Walk up to your 45-degree place. Tip out. Take notice. Walk up, Dandasana, tipping out, and take notice. And then rolling back up. You don't quite know what that means yet, I understand. If you have a theraband, please put that around your feet, and you're going to tie it when the feet are together, and you make it into a bow tie because it's easier to untie that way. My theraband is very short, so I'm only going to show it to you, and then I'll use my strap because I know some of you don't have therabands. So then you make the feet hip distance again, and you're going to be tipping out. Same idea. You've just added some resistance to it. So if you don't have a theraband, but you do have a yoga strap, place that on so that you've got it around the ankles and your feet are hip distance apart. Dandasana. And let's all tip the toes out. The strap won't let you actually move your feet very much, but you'll feel the muscles that you're activating at the back of the thigh bone. And then feet up to neutral. Walk back to 45 degrees. Tip out against your theraband or your strap. Notice how you can sense the muscles that you're using. Okay. Release your feet. Walk down to your elbows. Tip out with your toes and see if you can notice the muscles that you're using, the ones we intend to be using. Right behind the thigh bone, up high at the pelvis. And then hold your head. So you're looking forward, that means the lumbar spine is on the floor. Press out with the toes. Notice where the muscles activate. My hope is that it is around the outer part of the thigh, high up on the thigh bone, and moving in towards the sacrum. And release that and walk up to your elbows. Press out again. Okay, release and come up to 45 degrees. Press out. Walk up to Dandasana. Feet hip distance apart and press out. And then release. And make a little scientific note, like on a sticky note in your mind. You can chart what you discovered there. Just come to notice it, please. We're going to be working with your hip flexors today. And you were actually assessing there a relationship between the deep six muscles, which are your deep hip stabilizing muscles. And they are, I will show you with my theraband in just a moment. The deep six muscles are a series of muscles. Let's say if I fold this in half twice, I've got 4 pieces of muscle there. I can't fold it again because it's too small, but the deep six are attached at the trochanter and over towards your sitting bone. One goes to the sacrum, that's your piriformis. The other ones are going down to the sitting bone region and they come down the thigh right about there. So those are your lovely deep six muscles there. So that was an activity for the deep six related to another muscle called the sartorius, which is here on your body. So it's attached to the upper hip. It goes across diagonally and attaches to the inner shin bone. So there's your anatomy lesson for today. All right. So please come over to table pose. And we're going to use pranayama now with the movement of the body to help bring the mind into yoga for our further exploration. Let's inhale to cat pose, please. And I know that's backwards for some of you, but use the in-breath to broaden the back of your waist. And then exhale to cow pose. Slide the pubic bone back, sitting bones up. Bring your spine forward, heart forward, lift your collarbones, chin forward. So inhale to cat. Exhale to cow. Inhale to cat pose again. Synchronize your breath and your body as a way to bring yourself into your practice. A little bit like when you put the honey in the yogurt and then you stir and they become one thing. Place your breath in your body and let them become one thing, moving harmoniously. One more time, inhale to cat pose. Now, as you stay in plank in a cat pose, step only your left foot back to plank pose. So you're going to keep your cat pose spine, keep your lumbar flexion, and step your left foot back to plank pose. And notice if, even in this position, you can feel your left hip flexors stretching. Keep your cat pose strong and tone the muscles of your left butt. Give them a squeeze. And then exhale your torso to table pose. And take your right foot back to plank with your left foot. Reach high to downward facing dog pose. Inhale forward to table pose. And then exhale to cow pose. Bring your heart forward. Inhale to cat pose. Keeping your cat pose strong, take your right foot back to plank. While the cat pose is strong, you have more lumbar flexion, more posterior pelvic tilt, and you may feel that your right hip flexors are already stretching. Give a little squeeze to your right butt muscles. And breathe in. Exhale your torso to plank pose. Keep your right leg strong and inhale backwards to plank with your left foot to meet your right foot. And then reach high to downward facing dog pose. And then walk your hands and feet back towards each other until you're in Uttanasana at the middle of your yoga mat. Let's inhale, glide the heart forward, please. And exhale for a deep bow to your legs. And inhale, rise up, Urdhva Hastasana. And exhale, hands to your heart. So we're going to be working with that cat one-leg plank thing in the Sun Salutation. I'm going to ask you to bring 2 blocks onto your mat. I'd like to get some good circulation moving for all of you before I go to some specifics about your hip flexors. So please step forward for Surya Namaskar, salutations to the sun, to that which is luminous, also within us. We're going to use the Ujjayi Breath. While you're standing upright, place your feet so they're hip distance apart and make a gentle squeeze of your feet towards each other so you'll feel the inner thighs waking up. Then imagine the pinky toes have more responsibility, not less. And as you keep the inner thighs toned, press your pinky toes down. Press into your outer heels. And notice if you get a little activation right at the back side where the upper thigh bone connects to the hip socket, right there. And now let's inhale, Urdhva Hastasana. Keeping the tone you just made in your mountain pose, exhale down to chair pose. So chair pose should not be a time when your butt gets lax or your hamstrings forget that they belong to your body. Now we're going to inhale, rise up, Urdhva Hastasana. Notice your inner thighs, pinky toes, outer heels, outer thighs. And then exhale forward to Uttanasana. And again, we don't want to have a sense that the outer hips just become lax because you have the genetics for that. Inhale, glide your heart forward, keeping the inner thighs toned. and awareness of the outer thigh bone as well. Exhale, Uttanasana. Inhale, rise up, keeping sensitivity from your feet to your inner thighs and outer thighs. And exhale, hands to your heart. Again, the outer thigh spot I'm talking about is that little family of the deep six, right behind your trochanter. Now we'll do the full sun salutation. So inhale. Exhale, Uttanasana. From your feet to your legs, to your sitting bones and your trochanters. If this basket of stability is there for the pelvis, what might that do for your mental well-being, mental grounding, physical stamina? Let's inhale, rise up, root down with your full strength. Now, Uttanasana, keeping the strength of the outer hip muscles and the inner thigh muscles. Inhale, glide forward. Keeping the right outer hip toned, step your left toes back to the basic lunge. With tone at your right outer hip, rise to your crescent lunge. And we're going to hover a little while. Let's enjoy. So a few key points to help remind the students who've come in and the people in the training. Press into your right big toe, pinky toe. Lift your right inner arch. And as you put some weight into your right outer heel, see if you can access right behind your thigh bone here, as with Monday's class. There's a little bit of tone. And then zip the pubic bone up. Reach strongly through your left leg, but no need to straighten your left leg completely if it's pulling your ilium bone forward. Yeah, so the left leg strength should not overwhelm the tone of the low belly here to keep your pelvis upright. Let's press into the left big toe, pinky toe, and then go up. It's a full celebration. Let's exhale, arms wide, come slowly forward, keeping the legs steady, lightly touch the two blocks. Okay, inhale, step forward, heart forward. Exhale, Uttanasana, connect with your inner arches, inner thighs, pinky toes, outer heels, outer thighs. Inhale the heart forward. Okay, exhale, right toes back. Connect at the left outer hip and rise, crescent lunge. You can just give yourself like this little mindful journey. The left big toe, mound of the big toe. The inner arch. Left inner heel. Left pinky, outer heel. The outer left hip. The basket of muscles that go from the left outer hip to your left sitting bone. With your hip bones coming up to be level, strengthen your right leg behind you, but don't let it overpower what your right low belly can do here to help you stay stable across the pelvis. And see if you can go up and celebrate. The stability of the legs is really essential for how much reach you can have. And then as you exhale, sweep the arms wide, come forward slowly, and this time we're going to step backwards to downward dog pose. So place your hands firmly on the blocks, step back, downward dog pose. Breathe in. Next inhale, come forward to plank. Keep your left leg strong, including your left butt, And exhale, squeeze your right knee up to your nose and bring your nose to your knee. Inhale, plank pose. Exhale, left knee to your nose, nose to your knee. Inhale, plank. Exhale, right knee forward, knee to your nose. Inhale, plank. Keeping your right leg strong, exhale your left knee forward. Inhale to plank. And exhale, downward facing dog pose. You breathing in. Exhale, right foot forward. Inhale, rise. Exhale, plank pose. Inhale, downward dog pose. Exhale, left foot forward. Inhale, rise. Exhale, plank. Inhale, downward dog. Right foot forward, left knee down. Inhale, Asana. Exhale, plank pose. Inhale, downward facing dog. Exhale, left foot forward, right knee down. Inhale, Asana. Exhale, plank. Inhale, downward facing dog pose. And exhale, awkward foot forward, second foot forward. Uttanasana. Connect again into the strength from your feet up to the upper inner thighs and the outer hips right near the thigh bone and across to the sitting bones. And inhale, rise up, Urdhva Hastasana. And exhale, hands to your heart. And stand really still inside the circulation and the innervation that you just generated. Okay, and release both hands, please. Okay, so we did a little checking on something at the beginning of class, and I'd like you now to bring a chair onto your yoga mat. And the other option is that you could use a physioball for this little experiment. I know that many students may not have a physioball, so I'm going to show you with a chair, and then if I can, I'll slip my physioball into the picture too. Let me just move my water glass so I don't run the risk of knocking it over. So this chair is padded. You may want that also for yourself, to put a blanket on your chair. Please lie down. Put your feet up on the chair or up on the high point of the physioball. And let's do the toes pointing up and the knees also pointing up. The upper body is going to stay down. So I'm going to say the word bridge pose, but I really only mean for the lower body. So as you come into your Ujjayi breath, let that be something that you bring in like your superpowers, your yoga powers. And with an Ujjayi inhale, press your heels down against your chair or down against the ball and roll your hips up, toning right behind where the trochanters are. Also, yes, your glutes and your hamstrings. And then exhale and roll that down. So we don't really lift the hips that high. We are keeping the upper torso, thoracic spine, shoulder blades on the floor. So I'm going to ask you to go really slowly now. Take a couple breaths if you need to, or a long inhale to roll up. Notice that the arms are not a part of your balance. And a long exhale to roll down, checking the basket of muscles at the back side of your pelvis where your thigh bone gets to connect to the hip sockets. And please do that 3 times more. I'll get my physioball. So 3 more means at your pace. The 3 that are yours to do with your breath cycle. Reminding yourself that the arms are not a part of how you're keeping your balance, which might mean that you're going to make much smaller actions if you start to become unbalanced when you're first going up. That will be a sign that we want to train more slowly, more thoughtfully, not that we want to compensate with the outer body just to get, quote unquote, to get the job done. And when you roll down for the 5th time, then let your body relax and see if you can ask for a little bit more ease or relaxation at the outer hips, where the muscles had the most invitation, the most responsibility. If you want to help those muscles to relax a bit, you can tip the toes in and cross your feet for a moment like this. Yeah. You could also change the cross of the feet. So what you're doing is you're putting your femurs into internal rotation there, and that's letting these deep 6 muscles, which are all external rotators, it's letting them stretch a little bit or relax a little bit. And bring your feet back up to neutral. Now, keeping that experience in mind, what you were just doing required your glutes, your deep 6, and your hamstrings to help lift your hips up. You were lifting up against gravity, but you're also lifting up against whatever the tightness is for your hip flexors on the front of your thighs. So I'm going to have you come up to standing now. I guess my ball wants to be in the picture. So come up to stand. You need a chair for this. And I will show you as a profile facing this way. Let me get this on the other side of my chair. I guess the floor in my room is not level or my ball is possessed. One of those is, or maybe both of those things are true. Okay, so we're going to be placing the hands on the chair seat. I know you can't see every angle for my body right now, so I'm going to be asking you to do a certain thing with the leg. Try to come with me. If you have a question, you can unmute and let me know. So let's put both hands on the chair seat. Keep your right foot planted and step your left foot back into what you would think of as the basic lunge from your Sun Salutation. Let's keep the left heel lifted, please. And I'd like you to press your arms down against the chair like you're going into cat pose and try to gaze back towards your left toes. Tone your left butt muscles and acknowledge that you might already feel your left hip flexors stretching. Breathing in and breathing out. Keeping the cat pose strong for the moment. Now let's press into the right heel. Please straighten your right leg. Notice that your hip flexor stretch goes away because you've moved away from hip extension. Press the left heel down behind you. Now looking back at your left foot, turn your left heel in slightly. And bend your right knee. Return to your cat pose spine with your torso and your arms. Let the left heel lift like you do in your basic lunge, but keep the heel turned in slightly. So at the moment you're using the cat pose spine like this because I want you to accentuate how you place the pelvis into some measure of hip flexion while you're taking your leg into hip extension. Having your left heel turned in slightly, some of you are going to find that you really sense the rectus femoris, but then right into the adductors in the upper inner left thigh. So breathe in there. And then glide your hips back, straighten your right leg, center your left heel as you press it down. Now look back at your left foot and turn the heel slightly out without wobbling your right leg about. Okay? And then bend your right knee. Come into your cat pose spine. As you come forward, keep the left heel turned out slightly, but let it lift, just like in your crescent lunge. Squeeze the left butt muscles. You might now notice that where you're stretching your hip flexors is like maybe the center of the thigh and across towards the outer thigh. So not only is your left leg in extension, it's also rotated internally right now. And then again, straighten your right leg, please. Glide your hips back. Place your left heel down so it's relatively centered behind you. And then take one big step forward, or several small steps if you need to. Rise up to standing and notice the difference in your legs from left to right. Turn this around. Okay, so you're fanning across muscles here. So you had your adductors, rectus femoris, sartorius. Some of you might have felt the IT band, just the upper part, the TFL, tensor fasciae lata. So you're fanning across that region of the body. Let's do the other side. We are going to keep that kind of cat pose spine because I don't want you to arch your lower back and distort your research. Okay, so left foot forward, right foot back. Start with your back foot centered, just like in the crescent lunge. And then press into your cat pose spine. Gaze back towards your right toes. That puts your whole spine into flexion. Go ahead and tone your right butt muscles. I was telling the training group about the glutes. Just because you're wearing them doesn't mean you're using them. I would like you to use them. So if you were to reach back and poke, your butt would not be like the Pillsbury Doughboy right now, as adorable as that is. Okay, with your next inhale, slowly straighten your left leg, glide your hips back. You gaze back at your right foot, excuse me, it's centered right now, so turn your right heel slightly in. And then return to the crescent lunge. Lift your right heel just like you would in the other kind of lunge, but have the heel tipped slightly in. Come to your cat pose spine, please. And breathe in and out. Noticing that you're probably contacting the hip flexors set in the middle of the thigh, but then across into your adductors. And then glide back, reaching both sitting bones towards the wall behind you. Also reach your right heel straight back. Look back at your right foot and turn the heel out to the side slightly. And no need to distort your front leg for that. Your right leg can turn inside the hip joint without causing the left hip to become chaotic. Okay, one more time, bend your left knee. Glide forward like you're doing the crescent lunge with your right heel tipped slightly out. Cat pose spine. And breathing in, notice where the sensations are and greet them lovingly. Then glide your hips back. Straighten your front leg. And then please step your back foot forward. And again, rise up to standing, and let's take notice across the hips, what you were experiencing through there. Okay, now you can try this out. If you have a physioball, I'll show you with the physioball. If you don't have a physioball, we'll make it up with the chair. Okay, so if I take this physioball and I sit on it, because of my situation, I'm going to walk my feet under that chair. So you walk forward until you have your mid to upper back on the ball. When I say my situation, I mean how much space I have here. So my feet are under the chair right now, the spine on the ball. And if you watch for a moment, when I go over backwards, I have hopefully stretched my hip flexors sufficiently that I can come into this pose kind of like Asana. I just happen to put my fingers under my bookshelf, which is pretty delicious. And my feet and heels, the toes can point straight up. And basically there's no kind of drag on my hip flexors nor my lower back. Everything feels wonderful. So if you have a physio ball, you're welcome to try that. You sit on the ball and then you walk down until you're on your ball at your lower to middle back like I am right now. Now, if you have a huge ball and you're a short person, it's going to feel harder to do, much harder to do. And so if that's the case, if this was a really large ball and I'm not going to get taller, I have to start with the ball on my upper back so that when I go to the back bend, it's a reasonable expectation about where my hips are going to end up on the ball. So that is different. Now, if you don't have a physio ball and you want to use the chair, you of course can't walk in the same way, but you can pad the chair. Please pad it thoughtfully. This one had padding, but I'm adding padding. And you sit in front of your chair, placing your upper back on the chair. You hold either the upper back or the seat of the chair, and you lift the hips and lengthen out through your tailbone. If you have the good fortune to have a chair where your arms can go through it, you can reach them long. But for anyone, whether you're doing the chair version that I'm doing right now or the ball version, we really want to sense a kind of freedom across the front of the hips and pelvis, and this strength and tone across the back of the butt. But both of those things, they can co-occur. If that's not your experience, please don't berate your hips or pelvis. There's probably good reasons why things feel less than optimal right now. So if you're on a physio ball, start walking yourself down. If you're on a chair, you can start walking yourself down. Okay. Hello. It's exciting. For some of you, you haven't done that before with the physio ball, I know. And the chair is a substitute, but actually I recommend you have one of these, especially since we're training our yoga teacher team on this right now. It might become more and more part of class or a special class about how to use your physio ball. So keeping that in mind, let's put this guy aside now. and come back to your seat in Dandasana. My friend is very much wanting to be here with me. There we go. Okay, so come back to your seat in Dandasana. You have your theraband and your strap at the ready. Sitting upright. Just see what you can do when you tip the toes out. Where do you notice it? Walk back to your 45-degree position. And draw the lumbar spine down towards the floor so you're not arching it. And tip out and see what you can notice. Roll that up. Come down to your elbows. Broaden your lumbar spine towards the floor. Tip out. Notice what's happening. Okay, and then roll down and hold your head so you're gazing forward at your toes or the imaginary ocean, watching the waves. Keep the lumbar spine down and roll your toes out. Draw the feet back up to neutral. Walk up. Take your yoga strap or your theraband. When you tie a theraband, make a bow tie, please. Otherwise, it's very hard to untie it later. Sitting up in Dandasana. You can press out. Notice where the strength is needed. And where you have strength or stamina now. Roll it up to center. Walk back. About 45 degrees, but hollow the lower belly and the lower back towards the floor. Tip out. Notice if you have any increased stamina, which is one of my experiences here. And then down to your forearms. Keeping the feet hip distance apart, please tip out. Notice where you activate that from. Roll it back up. Hold your head, look forward, and tip out. Notice if you have any increased stamina or comfort, even if it's not a different range of motion. And roll it back up. Please slip your toes out of your band or your strap. Put that aside. Please bend both knees. Place your feet flat on the floor. Make the feet as wide as your yoga mat. Tip down to your right and press the left butt forward into your left hip right here. Lengthen the left thigh. This is another one that we could have assessed this at the beginning of class and you'd probably feel the increased ease right now. We didn't pre-assess it, but you might have a memory of having done this on other occasions and just see if there's more balance or range of motion in your hip joint. And roll it back to center. Feet are as wide as the mat. Tip your windshield wipers down to your left and press your right butt forward into your right hip. So in the front of the hip, you want to sense opening, and the back of the hip, you want to sense tone. And then roll that one back to center. If you'd like, you have your chair right here. And you can come to Shavasana. Okay, so I'm eager to find out how your body experiences your Shavasana physically and mentally with the sequence that we were just doing. So when you put your legs up on the chair, let's try to make sure everything feels supportive. What's happening for me is that I put a blanket on my chair, and so My chair is currently a little tall for me. So I'm going to bring it in close, and then I'm going to put my feet on the upper back of the chair so that they are supported. And let your body and your mind and your breath, let them all rest. You made an important commitment to yourself in being here today. Let's soak in the medicine of your practice. Allow yourself to deeply relax. May all the vrittis fade. May you easily remember your indwelling essence. Allow the rest to penetrate even more deeply. The muscles and bones of the body understand you're resting. May this also be clear to your mind and your heart. And with respect for where your body has been in this journey, I'd like it to just lightly deepen your awareness, refresh your breathing. And then when you roll down to one side, you can return to your seat where you began. And some of you might find that your meditation seat may feel a little bit more free if one thing that makes it difficult is a tightness at the inner groin or across the upper part of your hip flexors. So come to your seat, please. Let's also take notice, how does the mind feel through this exploration? Join your hands together at your heart. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaste. And I will come up to see you closer. I'm sitting on a very tall, this is my other physioball, so it's quite a bit taller. Okay. How are you? You had some fun, I hope, not just hard work. I hope some are still doing Shavasana, actually.